When you wake up in the quiet of the morning, when no one else is watching, when it's just you and your thoughts, do you ever pause and realize Allah is watching? Not in the way the world watches to judge, but in the way the Creator observes to guide, to protect, and to remind you of your purpose. You see, most of us live our lives as though our actions disappear into thin air, as if what we do when no one sees has no weight. But Allah sees everything: the moments of sincerity, the silent struggles, the efforts you thought went unnoticed, the battles you fight in the privacy of your heart. Nothing escapes His sight. Sometimes we think that only our big deeds matter: our prayers, our charity, our good words, but the truth is, Allah's gaze reaches even the smallest gestures. When you hold back an angry word for His sake, when you look away from something forbidden, when you choose patience over impulse, He sees that. And in those unseen moments, that's where your true character is being shaped. The world may never applaud you for your restraint or for the quiet good you do, but Allah does. He records every heartbeat of sincerity, every tear of repentance, every small sacrifice you make for Him. Yet, in that same awareness lies a reminder: if He sees every good deed, He also sees every act of negligence. When we waste our time, when we skip our prayers, when we hide behind excuses, Allah sees that too. Not to shame us, but to awaken us, because every act of disobedience doesn't just weaken our relationship with Him, it weakens us. When you know that the one who gave you life is watching, and yet you choose laziness or heedlessness, you're not just betraying His trust, you're betraying your own potential. Sometimes people say, "I can't stay disciplined. I get tired. I lose focus." But the truth is, we're not tired, we've simply forgotten who we're doing it for. If you remembered that Allah is observing your every effort, you'd find a new kind of strength. Imagine standing before Him one day and hearing, "I saw you struggle. I saw you rise after falling. I saw you choose me when it was hard." Isn't that what your soul longs to hear? That's what it means to live with awareness, Isen, to worship Allah as though you see Him, and if you can't see Him, to know that He sees you. That consciousness transforms everything. Your work becomes worship, your patience becomes purpose, your discipline becomes devotion. When you remind yourself that Allah sees all, you stop living for people's approval. You stop hiding your flaws behind appearances and start working on your heart. Because you realize the one who truly matters already knows the truth about you. You don't need validation when your Creator has already acknowledged your struggle. This realization humbles you, but it also empowers you. It takes away the pressure to be perfect in front of others and replaces it with the desire to be sincere before Allah. If we could live every moment with this awareness, imagine how differently we'd act. We'd speak with kindness even when no one's recording it. We'd avoid sin not because someone might find out, but because we know Allah already knows. We'd pursue excellence not for recognition, but because we're under His constant gaze. That's the beauty of living with consciousness of Allah. It turns ordinary moments into sacred ones. So the next time you feel unseen, overlooked, or alone, remind yourself the world may not notice, but Allah always does. Every quiet step toward Him is witnessed. Every struggle for discipline is recorded. Every moment of sincerity is seen. And when you live with that awareness, you stop asking, "Who's watching me?" and start saying, "He is." Many people today say, "I'm tired. Tired of life, tired of work, tired of responsibility, tired of faith." But if we look deeper, most of the time it's not that we're tired, it's that we've lost our sense of purpose. The body can endure so much when the heart knows why it's enduring it. But when the heart forgets its reason, even the smallest task feels heavy. The truth is, we're not tired, we're undisciplined, unfocused, and disconnected from the purpose that once gave us energy. When you live only for this world, you burn out quickly. You're chasing things that keep running away. You work hard, but for what? To please people, to prove something, to fit in. None of that satisfies the soul. But when you remember that your effort is for Allah, that your striving is seen and rewarded by Him, everything changes. Suddenly, waking up early for Fajr doesn't feel like a burden, it feels like an honor. Holding your tongue when you want to respond harshly doesn't feel like weakness, it feels like worship. You find peace in discipline because you're no longer serving your desires, you're serving your Lord. Fatigue often comes when your heart and your effort are moving in opposite directions. You're doing things outwardly, but inwardly you're disconnected. You wake up, go to work, go through the motions, and still feel empty. That's not tiredness, that's a lack of alignment between your purpose and your actions. The soul isn't meant to live without direction. It needs meaning, and that meaning only comes when you live for something greater than yourself. When your goal is Allah's pleasure, even the hardest day carries peace. Think of the people who strive for His sake. They face sleepless nights, endless challenges, moments of pain, but they don't complain of tiredness. Their hearts are alive because they know why they're doing what they do. They may stumble, they may fall, but they rise again, driven by a purpose stronger than comfort. They understand that every act of discipline is an act of worship. Every time they push through laziness, they are saying, "Ya Allah, I'm doing this for you." It's easy to say I'm tired, because it excuses us from responsibility. But the real question is, tired of what? Are you tired of chasing your goals or tired of trying to impress people? Because when you work for people, you'll always feel drained. But when you work for Allah, even your exhaustion becomes sacred. The Prophet and his companions endured hunger, pain, sleepless nights, yet their hearts were at peace. Not because life was easy, but because their purpose was clear. They were not driven by comfort. They were driven by conviction. If you feel lost, remind yourself why you began. You didn't start this journey to give up halfway. You started because your heart wanted something real, something eternal. You wanted to grow, to become closer to Allah, to live a life that means something. But that purpose can't survive without discipline. You have to feed it with consistency. You can't pray only when it's convenient or seek knowledge only when you feel inspired. You must train your soul the way an athlete trains their body with patience, persistence, and purpose. When you tell yourself you're tired, ask instead, what am I feeding my soul? Because a soul disconnected from its creator will always feel exhausted. You can sleep for 10 hours and still wake up drained if your heart isn't at peace. But one sincere sajda, one tear in dua, one moment of remembering Allah, and suddenly the fatigue begins to fade. That's not coincidence. That's the power of divine purpose. So no, you're not tired. You're simply distant from the reason you were created. Bring your heart back to its purpose, and you'll find strength you never knew you had. When you realign your actions with the intention to please Allah, your fatigue turns into fuel, and your weakness becomes worship. Faith is not just what we believe in our hearts or say with our tongues, it's what we live through our actions, our habits, and our discipline. Discipline is the silent proof of faith. It's easy to speak about trust in Allah when life feels smooth, but real faith shows itself in moments of struggle, when no one is watching, and when the easier path tempts us most. Every act of consistency, every moment of self-control, every time you choose what is right over what feels easy, that is faith in motion. Without discipline, faith remains a theory. With it, faith becomes a way of life. When you look at the lives of the prophets, peace be upon them all, you see a pattern unwavering discipline. They didn't just believe in Allah. They lived their belief through daily sacrifice and structure. They didn't act upon emotion, they acted upon conviction. The prophet didn't rise for prayer because it was convenient, he rose because it was a covenant. He didn't speak the truth only when it was safe, he spoke because truth was his mission. That's what faith looks like when it's disciplined, steady, calm, and unstoppable. We often wait for motivation to act, thinking we'll become disciplined once we feel ready. But that readiness never truly comes. Discipline isn't born from comfort, it's forged in discomfort. It's waking up for Fajr when your body begs for sleep. It's staying silent when anger burns inside you. It's continuing your hikr when distractions pull you away. These moments may feel small, but in Allah's sight, they are mountains of reward. You prove your faith not in the grand gestures, but in the quiet decisions that no one sees. Without discipline, our faith becomes fragile, strong in words, weak in practice. A believer without discipline prays when it's easy, gives when it's convenient, and remembers Allah when life feels calm. But a believer with discipline stays consistent through storm and silence alike. They understand that worship is not built upon mood, but upon commitment. They know that Allah loves the small deeds done consistently more than the large ones done occasionally. That is the essence of disciplined constancy in devotion, even when emotions fade. There will be times when you won't feel spiritual, when your heart feels heavy, when your mind feels distant from Allah. In those moments, discipline becomes your anchor. You keep going not because you feel inspired, but because you know the one you're serving deserves your consistency. You pray even when your heart is quiet, because your discipline reminds you that faith is more than feeling its obedience. That's when your relationship with Allah deepens, because it's no longer built on convenience, but on commitment. Discipline is also protection. It shields your soul from drifting into heedlessness. It keeps your mind focused and your heart awake. Without discipline, sins creep in quietly, one skipped prayer, one delayed repentance, one ignored reminder until suddenly the heart grows numb. But with discipline, even small acts of worship strengthen your spiritual muscles. Just like a tree grows stronger with time and care, your faith grows firm through daily, deliberate effort. The disciplined believer doesn't seek perfection, they seek consistency. They know they will stumble, but they also know they'll rise again. They understand that Allah doesn't expect flawlessness, but perseverance. Each time they resist temptation, they polish their heart. Each time they push through laziness, they prove their loyalty. Every disciplined act whispers to Allah, I haven't given up. Faith without discipline is a promise without action, but faith with discipline is a light that never fades even in darkness. When you live with discipline, you're not just proving your strength, you're showing your devotion. Because true faith is not what you feel once in a while, it's what you practice every single day with patience, purpose, and quiet determination. There are moments in life when you feel weak, when you fall short of your own expectations, when you look at yourself and think, I'm failing. Those are the moments that test the depth of your faith. It's easy to feel strong when everything is going right, but real strength is shown when you're broken and you still turn back to Allah. Weakness is not a sign of failure, it's a reminder of your humanity. Every soul faces exhaustion, every believer faces moments of doubt and difficulty. What matters most is what you do in those moments. Do you give up and drown in guilt, or do you lift your gaze to the one who can turn your weakness into worship? When you fall, the Shaitan wants you to stay down. He whispers that you've failed too much, that you're too far gone, that Allah won't forgive you this time. But those are lies meant to distance you from mercy. The truth is, Allah loves to see His servant return, even after countless falls. Each time you rise from your weakness, each time you say Astaghfirullah with sincerity, you are turning your pain into an act of worship. You are proving that your heart still belongs to Him even when your steps falter. The tears that fall from regret are more valuable than 1,000 moments of arrogance. Allah sees you struggling, stumbling, striving, and that struggle itself is beloved to Him. Discipline doesn't mean you'll never feel weak. It means you don't let weakness define you. You can acknowledge your pain and still move forward. You can cry to Allah and still keep praying. You can feel empty and still hold on to your faith. Because the true believer doesn't wait for perfect conditions to worship, they worship in the storm. When you stand in prayer despite your exhaustion, when you recite Quran even when your mind is distracted, when you whisper, Ya Allah, while your heart feels distant, you are transforming weakness into strength. You are showing that your relationship with Him isn't built on emotion alone, It's built on loyalty. Sometimes we misunderstand what strength looks like. We think strength is about never breaking, but the strongest people in the eyes of Allah are those who break often, but always in front of Him. They let their hearts shatter in sujud, and from those broken pieces, Allah builds something more beautiful, a heart softer, purer, and closer to Him. When you feel like you can't go on, remind yourself that Allah doesn't need perfection from you. He wants persistence. He wants to see that no matter how heavy the test, you still turn to Him. Weakness becomes worship when it leads you to dua. When your heart trembles in front of Allah, that moment carries more weight than 1,000 words of strength spoken to the world. The Prophet said that Allah is close to the broken-hearted, and it's in that brokenness that sincerity often shines brightest. The moments you thought were your lowest were, in truth, opportunities for closeness. They humbled you, softened you, and reminded you that you cannot do anything without His help. So, the next time you find yourself struggling, don't hide from Allah. Run to Him. Speak to Him the way a child speaks to their mother after falling, with honesty, with tears, with hope. Tell Him, Ya Allah, I am weak, but I'm still here. I'm still trying. That simple statement can move mountains in your heart. It's not your perfection that brings you near to Him. It's your sincerity, your effort, your refusal to give up. Every act of discipline begins in weakness, because every strong believer was once a struggling one. Don't let your weakness make you feel unworthy. Let it drive you to the one who gives you strength. When you rise from your weakness for Allah's sake, you don't just regain control, you grow in faith. You purify your heart, and you remind your soul that Allah sees your effort even when the world sees your flaws.